This is episode 6 of my Draculaura Cosplay progress. I know I said last episode that I was going to cover up the ends of the trim, but something went wrong with the gemstones I picked out. So I'm just going to save that for later, and we are going to be moving on to sewing the thick boy trim around the top edges of the dress. But first, I have to sew and assemble the back half of the dress because I kind of forgot to do that. Whoopsie! Anyways, now that I have the front and the back of the dress assembled together, I can actually try it on and show you guys what it looks like so far. It actually looks like it's coming together and it's looking like something now. I'm so excited! Oh, and here you guys will see the reason why I made it out of stretch fabric. I mean, look at the mobility. If I'm gonna be wearing a mermaid skirt, I want to be able to move around as much as possible. And now for what this video is actually about, sewing this beautiful, thick pink trim onto the dress. But first, we have to secure the endings so that they don't fray. And for that, I use the 6000 and I just kind of douse the end of it in each 6000 so that it doesn't fray, or else it'll look like this. And we don't want that. Then once the glue was dry, it was time to put the dress back onto the dress form and start pinning the trim to the edge of the dress with a lot, and I cannot stress this enough, a lot of sewing pins. And I made sure to put extra pins down wherever the thick trim met the rope cord trim so that the rope cord trim did not move out from underneath the thick trim while I was sewing it down. Now as for the points at the top, I did have to fold the trim over itself a little bit in order to get that sharp corner, but it's not even noticeable anyway, so who cares? I got the effect I wanted, and that's what matters. Now the ends of the trim can be seen poking out from underneath the thick trim in certain angles, but you can only ever see it if you're like that close to me. And if you're that close to me, what the fuck are you doing that close to me, dude? Get away from me. Anyway, after I was done pinning, it was time to start hand sewing the trim onto the dress. And yes, I did say hand sewing. This entire thing. Now could I have saved myself some time and done this on my sewing machine? Yes. Was I about to run the risk of breaking my sewing machine because I've never machine sewed trim onto a garment before, even though I know how to do it in theory? Absolutely not. Because if my sewing machine breaks, I can't afford to get it fixed right now. Now this whole process is again incredibly sped up, but somewhere around here, yes, right here, this is how fast I was actually going. This was a very slow process that took, I'm gonna say, about 2 days in order to pull off, because I had to sew this onto the dress twice technically. I had to sew through all of the loops on the bottom row and then all of the loops on the top row of the trim. And here I also included some close-up footage of me sewing the trim onto the front half of the dress, just so you guys can get a better look at what's going on and how I'm doing this. And again, this is very, and I mean very, sped up because I wanted to make sure I went slow so that I didn't mess up the trim on the front half of the dress. Also, don't worry about this gap in the back. I left it that way just in case I wanted to put a zipper in the dress later. And after 2 whole days, 2 or 3 days of hand sewing, the trim is finally sewn onto the dress, and it's really looking like something now. Just look at that. And now we are one more big step closer to her completion. Like seriously, minus the gems, she's halfway done. Well, the dress is halfway done. We haven't even gotten started on the shoes, or the top hat, or her cape, or her wig, but you get the idea. Also, I hope you guys are enjoying these close-up shots. I decided to add those in last minute. And now we get to move on to the other half of the dress, her skirts, which I will be starting on in the next video. So stay tuned until next time.